Okay, this is for section 3.3. This is a lot like your homework in 3.2, where we're going to make sure that the variable x is on one side of the equation and the number is on the other side. So let's start with 3x minus 6, and it doesn't matter if the letter is on the left or right. That does not matter. So we have 4x plus 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to move this 3 over to that side. So I'm going to subtract it out because it's a plus and a negative will give us a 0 value. And what you do on one side, you must do on the other. So we end up with a negative 6 left on this side. And I'm just going to rewrite it negative 3x. So before I start moving the 6 over to this side, I'm going to go ahead and combine these like terms right there. So we end up with a value of 1x when we subtract out, and I'm just rewriting the plus 6, and that's an actual 1. All right, so to move it over, it's a plus 6, so we want to subtract out 6, so it was 0 out. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So I'm just going to rewrite that as negative 6 minus 6 equals, and remember, 1x is just x, so we're just going to write the letter x. So now we know that we convert this to a plus sign, make that sign the opposite. So we can see that we're going to add them and keep the sign, so we have a negative 12 equals x. All right, let's try another one. So if I have something like x plus 23 plus 3x, and that equals to negative 7 minus 3x minus 12. So the first thing you want to do before I start shifting things over, I'm going to see what I can combine first to start minimizing my numbers. So over here on the left, I can see I can take these two, and remember this is a 1x. I'm going to go ahead and add those up. So that's a 4x, and we did nothing with the 23, so I'm just going to write it as plus 23. All we did was take this and this, and we added it up. So now on this opposite side, I'm going to take this negative 7 minus 12. So I'm going to write this off to the side, negative 7 minus 12. I'm going to apply the rules, change that to a plus sign, make this sign the opposite. So when I do that, I can then see that this becomes a negative 19. So I'm going to write that over here on the right side. So this is negative 19, and I'm just writing minus 3x because we didn't do anything with that. Now that we simplified our numbers by combining like terms, now I'm going to start shifting things around. So I'm going to take this 3x and I'm going to move it over to the other side of the equation. So that's a negative 3x, so I'm going to add 3x. So that way it zeroes out. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So I'll just go ahead and rewrite that. So 4x plus 23, we didn't do anything with it, but we're going to add 3x to this side. Now on the other side, we're left with negative 19. Now I can see I can go ahead and combine like terms, start minimizing this down, and that will give me the result of 7x, and a plus 23, we didn't do anything with that yet, and we have negative 19 on the opposite side. Now I'm going to go ahead and move this one over. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it the opposite to 0 out. That zeroes out, and what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So on this side, I'm going to move this up a little bit. We have 7x equals, and then remember this, you change it to a plus sign, make that the opposite sign. So we're going to add those values, and we'll end up with a negative 42. Now on this side of the equation, to get rid of that 7, we're going to divide it out by 7, a positive 7. Keep the signs consistent. That way end up with a positive 1. So on this side, we'll divide it out by a positive 7. And these are opposite signs, so you're going to end up with an x equals a negative 6 answer. Okay, let's go ahead and try another one. All right, so how about if we have something like this? If we have 4 times y minus 2, and that's equal to 2y minus 8. Well, before we can start shifting things around, we want to start simplifying something first. And you can see we can't do anything inside the parentheses, so we're going to distribute. We're going to multiply that out. So that would be 4y minus 8, because 4 times 2 is 8, equals 2y minus 8 on this side. Didn't do anything on that side. Now we can't combine like terms on either side, so we got to start shifting things around. So I'm going to move this one over there first. So I'm going to subtract it out, make it the opposite to zero out. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. So let's go ahead and rewrite that. So 4y minus 8. I didn't do anything with that. I'm just subtracting 2y on this side. And on the opposite side, we have negative 8 remaining. Now we can combine like terms. We have 4y minus 2y. And we know that'll give us the result of 2y. And I didn't do anything with the minus 8, so I'll just rewrite that, and I'll just rewrite this one too. All right, now what we want to do is take this negative 8 and move it over. So I'm going to add it so it'll zero out. So on what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So on this side, we end up with 2y equals, and then negative 8 plus 8 will give you an answer of 0. But that's okay, because when we divide out the 2 on this side and we divide it out on the other side, our final answer will be y equals 0. Okay, let's try another one. All right, how about if we have something like this? Say we have 3 times 5x minus 1. Minus 6 equals 13x plus 5. Sorry about the squiggly. All right, so if I look on one side of the equation, I'm like, how can I simplify this down? Well, there's nothing I can do in the parentheses, but I can go ahead and distribute by multiplying that out. So I'll do that first. So I have 15x and then minus 3, because 3 times then minus 1 would give us minus 3. And then I'm just going to write the minus 6 because I didn't do anything with that yet. And everything on the opposite side, I'm just writing it out. All right, so looking on the left side, I can see, well, I can go ahead and combine this. So I think, let me rewrite this because I don't want to make that confused. I'm going to do 15x minus 3 minus 6. Okay. So I'm going to, instead of taking what I'm going to take this, so that way I can just write it as 15x minus. And then I'll go over here, 3 minus 6. And remember, the rule is change that to a plus, make this sign the opposite, and we can subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So we end up with a negative 3. So negative 3 there. All right. Equals... Okay, scratch it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make that confusing. So let me start that one over again. So 3 times 5x minus 1 minus 6 equals, and I apologize about this, 13x plus 5. Okay, so the first thing we did was distribute. So we had 15x minus 3, just bringing the minus 6 along, and I'm just rewriting everything else. Okay, so what I want to do, I was correct the first time. It's negative 3 minus 6. Change that to a plus, make that the opposite sign, and we end up with a negative 9. So I'm just going to rewrite that as 15x minus 9 equals, and then just rewrite everything else on the opposite side. Okay, so now we can't combine any further, so we need to shift things around. So I'm going to take the 13 and bring it over here. So you would subtract out 13x. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So now I'm going to rewrite that as 15x minus 9 minus 13x equals, and this zeroed out, 5. Okay, now I'm going to look, what can I combine over here on the left side? Well, I have that and that. So we know 15 minus 13, that equals 2. So the answer to this would be 2x. And I'm just going to rewrite the minus 9 equals 5. Now we're going to take this and we'll move it over to this side. So to do that, we're just going to go ahead and add 9. So that zeroes out. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So that's 2x equals 14. And now we know to divide out a 2. So this will divide out to a 1. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So x equals 7. So sorry about that. All right, let's try another one. right, how about if we have something like this? If we have a negative 15 minus a negative 8, and that's equal to x over 10. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is on the left side, I'm going to go ahead and perform that calculation to minimize that number. So I'm going to convert that to a plus and make this sign the opposite. So now I can see it's a negative and a positive, so we got to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So our answer is negative 7. And I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite everything on the right side of the equation. All right, now how do we get that 10 out of the denominator? Well, we learned that if we multiply it by 10, we know this will reduce down to 1, and what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So negative 70 equals x, and that's our final answer there. Okay, let's try another one. All right, how about if we have, see how many minutes I have left. Okay, let's try this. If we have negative 10, x plus 5 plus 74, and that's equal to negative 13 minus 13. Well, on the left side, you can see there's nothing we can do in the parentheses, but we can distribute this out. So if we start multiplying it, we'll end up with negative 10x minus a negative 10 and a positive 5 will give you a negative 50. I'm just writing plus 74 because we didn't do anything with that. And then over on this side, again, I'm going to go ahead and change that to a plus, make this the opposite sign. So now that they're both the same sign, we're going to have a negative, and you just add them up, and it's negative 26. Now over here on this side, we're going to go ahead and combine those. So that's a negative 50 plus 74. Opposite sign, subtract, take the sign of the larger number. I know the answer is 24. So I'm going to write that over here. Negative 10x plus 24 equals, and a negative 26 on the opposite side. I didn't do anything with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. So we know we take the opposite, which is minus 24. That'll zero out. What you do to one side, you do to the other. So now I'm going to write that out as negative 10x. Don't ever forget your signs. Equal. And then on this side, remember, you just convert that to a plus, make that the opposite sign. So they're both negatives now, and you're going to add them. It's going to be a negative 50 as an answer. So now on this side, we'll divide it out by negative 10. Make sure you're always consistent with the same sign to get a positive answer. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So our final answers, because this reduces to a 1, our final answer here is x equals, and these two negatives will give you a positive answer when you're dividing. And I think, yep, that's the last one I'm going to show you. Best of luck.